The space station of Vetra Prime was always busy. Ships came and went. Traders shouted about their goods, and travelers from dozens of worlds walked side by side. The air smelled of strange spices, warm metals, and the faint hum of engines. It was the kind of place where a person could get lost in the crowd. Where everyone was heading somewhere with a purpose, Rian moved through the market slowly. He was not in a hurry. He had no urgent business, no delivery to make, no meeting to attend. He liked to watch people. It reminded him that the galaxy was large and full of different lives. Some people were dressed in fine robes, others wore dusty travel gear. Some carried crates of shining fruit. Others had boxes filled with small machines that clicked and whirred. He stopped at a small stall selling fried spirals of dough. The vendor, a cheerful man with 4 arms, offered him one fresh from the oil. Rian was just reaching for his pouch of coins when he heard a voice behind him. It was soft, almost trembling, but it reached him clearly over the market noise. "Human, please wait." Rian turned. Standing there was a young girl. She looked to be no more than 10 years old by human measure, though he could tell she was not from Earth. Her skin had a faint silvery tone, not metallic but like moonlight. Her hair was a deep shade of blue-black, tied back neatly, and her large eyes were a gentle gray. She wore a simple silver dress that seemed practical rather than decorative. In her hand she held a small crystal, about the size of a bird's egg. She stepped closer, still looking up at him. "Please, I need your help." Rian was used to strangers asking for things in the market. Usually it was to buy something, or to help carry a load, or to guide them to a certain dock. But the way this girl spoke was different. Her voice carried a weight of worry, as if every moment mattered. "What is it?" he asked, keeping his voice calm. "My name is Alia," she said. "My mother is missing. She is trapped on a planet called Earth. I must find her. Please, will you help me?" Rian felt a strange pull at those words, Earth. He had left his homeworld years ago. Most aliens he met knew little about it, and few had ever been there. To hear someone speak of it with urgency was unusual. "Trapped on Earth," he repeated, trying to understand. "Why do you think she is trapped?" Alia's hands tightened around the crystal. "She went there for her work. She studies people and how they live. She sent messages for a time. But then the messages stopped. I have asked many for help, but they do not listen. They say it is too far or too dangerous. But you are human. You can go there." Rian crouched a little so that they were eye level. He saw the worry in her expression. She did not seem like someone inventing a story. She looked like someone who had been carrying a heavy burden for a long time. "Where are you from?" "Alia," he asked. "A world called Ilyara," she replied softly. "It is far from here. I came with a trader who agreed to bring me to this station, because I heard humans pass through here. I thought I would find someone who could help me." Rian studied her for a moment. The Ilyarans were known for their gentle nature and their skill in learning languages. They rarely traveled alone, and almost never without family. For a young one to be here alone was unusual and risky. "You have no one with you?" he asked. She shook her head. "Only my mother, and she is on Earth. I must reach her." The crowd flowed around them, people moving with their own business, not paying attention to the human and the small silver-skinned girl. Somewhere in the distance, a docking alarm sounded and the heavy thud of cargo loaders echoed against the metal walls. Rian took a slow breath. He knew he could simply walk away. It was not his problem, but something in the way she stood there, small in the middle of this noisy place, clutching her crystal as if it was the only thing she had left, made it impossible for him to turn aside. "What is this?" he asked, pointing to the crystal. "It is a locator," Alia said. "My mother gave it to me before she left. If I am near her, it will glow and lead me to her. But it works best when it is close to the same world she is on. That is why I must go to Earth." Rian nodded slowly. He had his own small ship, nothing special but reliable. The trip to Earth was not impossible, though it would take time. There would be costs, but none of that seemed to matter much at that moment. "All right," he said at last. "I will listen to your story in full. If I think I can help, I will take you to Earth. But first, You should eat something. You must be tired from traveling. For the first time, a small flicker of relief crossed Alia's face. She nodded. Rian turned back to the stall and bought 2 fried spirals of dough. He handed one to Alia, who accepted it with quiet thanks. They found a seat near the edge of the market where the crowd was thinner. As they ate, Rian asked questions. Alia told him about her mother's work with a small group of Illuran scientists who visited different planets to learn about cultures. She explained how her mother's team had gone to Earth to observe human customs in smaller communities, not in big cities. Her mother's last message had been short, a warning that she might have to hide for some time. After that, there was nothing. The more Rian listened, the more he realized that this was not a simple matter. If an Illuran had gone missing on Earth, there might be people who had seen something unusual. There might also be people who would not react kindly to an alien visitor. When they finished eating, Rian stood. Come with me. My ship is docked not far from here. We will talk more on the way. If I take you, we will need to be careful. Earth is not always friendly to strangers. Alia stood as well, still holding her crystal. Her gray eyes were steady now, less frightened than before. Thank you, she said simply. Rian led her through the winding passages of Vetra Prime, toward the docking bays. Ships of every shape and size rested in their berths, some loading goods, others preparing to launch. Somewhere ahead, his own small craft waited. He did not know yet what dangers they might face on Earth. He only knew that he had made a choice, and that this choice might lead to something far greater than a simple rescue. The docking bay of Vetra Prime was filled with the deep hum of engines. Ships floated inside the massive metal ring, some glowing softly as they charged their power cells. Rian's ship was not the largest or the newest, but it had carried him through storms, asteroid belts, and long trade runs without failure. It was a narrow craft with curved wings and a dull gray body, built more for travel than for looks. Alia followed Rian up the ramp. She stepped carefully, her small hand still holding the crystal. Inside, the air was cooler and quieter than the noise of the station. The walls were plain, with only a few compartments for storage. 2 chairs sat at the front near the control panel, and behind them was a small space for resting during long flights. You can sit here, Rian said, pointing to the co-pilot seat. It will be easier to talk while we prepare for the journey. Alia sat down, keeping her eyes on the panel of blinking lights and soft glowing screens. Rian began pressing switches, checking the fuel levels, and sending a message to the docking control to request departure clearance. Now, Rian said, glancing at her, tell me more about your mother. I need to understand why she went to Earth and why she might still be there. Alia took a slow breath before speaking. Her name is Lyra. On our world, she studies other worlds and the people who live on them. She learns their ways and brings back what she finds so our people can understand others better. She says it is important for peace. Rian nodded. He had met people like that before, scientists who believed learning about other cultures could prevent misunderstandings between species. It was dangerous work, especially if the world you visited did not know other intelligent life existed. She told me Earth was special, Alia continued. She said humans were many things at once. They could be kind, they could be curious, but they could also be afraid of what they did not know. She wanted to study the small places, not the big cities. She thought that in small places, she could learn how humans lived every day without drawing too much attention. Rian adjusted a dial on the panel and checked the readings. And what happened? Alia's eyes lowered. At first she sent me messages. She told me about the green forests and the wide rivers she saw. She said the people in the small towns were simple and friendly, but they sometimes asked her questions she could not answer. Then the messages became shorter. One day she said she might have to hide for some time. After that, I never heard from her again. Her voice stayed calm, but Rian could see the way her fingers gripped the crystal tightly. He knew that kind of worry, the kind that sat in the back of your mind and never let you rest. How long ago was the last message? He asked. 3 cycles of my world's moons, she replied. That is almost 2 months for humans. Rian thought about it. 2 months without a word could mean many things. Maybe she had been discovered and was hiding from people who did not understand her. Maybe something had gone wrong with her equipment. Or maybe she was somewhere deep in the wilderness, where no signals could escape. Alia looked at him again. I tried to find help. My people would not allow it. They said Earth was too far, that it was not our way to interfere. But I could not wait. I sold some of my belongings and paid a trader to bring me here, because I heard humans came through this station often. Rian leaned back in his seat. He had heard stories about Ilyarns, that they valued knowledge, that they rarely acted. Without deep thought, for Alia to take such a risk, she must have believed her mother's life depended on it. You understand, Rian said slowly. That Earth can be difficult for visitors. Even for humans who have been away for a long time, it can be hard to blend in. If your mother was in a small town, the people there would notice someone different very quickly. Alia nodded. She is careful. She can make herself look more human. But she cannot change everything. If people look closely, they might see she is not like them. That is why she might be hiding. The docking controls sent a green light across the panel, signaling permission to depart. Rian pressed a switch, and the hum of the ship grew louder. The ramp closed behind them with a firm click. Do you know exactly where she was? He asked. Alia held up the crystal. This has a memory of her last location. It is not perfect. It will lead us close if we are on the same world. Rian studied the crystal for a moment. Its surface caught the light from the panel, sending small reflections across the walls. He had seen many devices, but this one was different. It looked simple, but something in the way it shimmered told him it was more than just a tracker. We will head for Earth, he said at last. Once we get there, we will see if this crystal can lead us to her. Alia's eyes brightened slightly. Thank you. The ship lifted from the docking bay floor. Through the front glass, the curved walls of Vetra Prime slipped away, replaced by the endless black of space and the scattered lights of distant stars. Rian set the course, the ship's engine shifting to a steady hum as they accelerated toward the jump point. As the stars stretched into long lines, Alia spoke again. When I find her, I will take her home. She always told me the galaxy is big, but home is where your family is. She is my only family. Rian looked at her for a moment before turning back to the controls. He understood. In a galaxy full of strange worlds and countless faces, the people you cared about were what truly mattered. He did not know yet what awaited them on Earth. But he knew one thing. He could not let a child travel so far alone. For nothing, the ship moved deeper into the dark, carrying them toward the blue world that held both the mystery and the hope of their search. The ship moved smoothly through the jump lane, its engines giving off a steady hum. Outside the window, the stars blurred into white streaks, and the blackness of space seemed endless. Rian sat in the pilot's seat, his hands resting lightly on the controls. Alia sat beside him, holding the small crystal in her lap, her eyes fixed on the shifting light outside. It had been many hours since they left Vetra Prime. In that time, they had spoken a little, but most of the journey had passed in quiet. Rian did not mind the silence. Space travel had a way of making people think, and he guessed Alia's thoughts were with her mother. Have you ever been to Earth? Alia asked suddenly. Yes, Rian said. It is where I was born. What is it like? Rian thought for a moment before answering. It depends on where you are. In some places, the land is open and green. In others, there are cities with towers of glass and steel. The people can be kind, but they can also be suspicious of strangers. It is beautiful, but it can also be difficult if you are different. Alia nodded slowly, as if she was storing the information away. My mother told me humans have many languages. They do, Rian said, even in one country. People may speak in different ways. Your mother would have had to learn quickly if she wanted to speak with them. The crystal in Alia's hands caught the light from the control panel and shone faintly. She looked down at it, running her fingers along the smooth surface. It feels warmer than before, she said. Rian leaned slightly to look at it. That might mean we are getting closer. The device could be sensing her, even from far away. The ship's navigation screen showed their progress. The distance to Earth was shrinking. Soon they would leave the jump lane and enter normal space again. Rian began checking the ship's systems for entry. "We will reach orbit in a few hours," he said. "We need to plan where to land. If your mother was in a small place, we should avoid big cities. It will be easier to move without attention in rural areas." Ayla agreed. Her last message mentioned a forest near a river. She said the trees were tall and the air smelled sweet. She did not give me the name of the place. Rian brought up a map of Earth on the screen. "There are many forests like that," he said. "But we will start in regions where the population is small. Once we land, the crystal should help guide us." The ship's alarms gave a soft chime, a signal that they were nearing the jump exit. Stars returned to their natural shapes as the streaks faded. In the distance, a sphere of blue, green, and white grew larger. Earth floated against the black sky, its clouds swirling over oceans and land. Ayla leaned forward, her eyes wide. "It is beautiful." Rian looked at it, feeling a strange mix of familiarity and distance. He had not been back in years. The sight brought memories of open skies, the sound of wind through trees, and the warmth of sunlight on his face. The ship slowed as they approached orbit. Rian began the descent sequence, guiding the craft toward the planet's atmosphere. The edges of the ship glowed faintly as they passed through the upper layers. The sound of friction, a soft rumble beneath their feet. "Stay seated," Rian said. "Once we pass the clouds, we will see the land below." Through the glass, the blue of the oceans gave way to the greens and browns of forests and fields. Rivers cut silver paths through the land, and small towns appeared as clusters of tiny shapes. The light of the sun painted the land in warm gold. Rian aimed for a stretch of countryside far from the nearest city. He brought the ship down near a wide clearing beside a line of tall trees. From above, it looked like an ordinary forest dot when the ship settled with a gentle thud. Rian powered down the engines. The air outside would be fresh, but they had to be careful. Not all humans would react calmly to strangers arriving in the middle of their land. They stepped out into the cool air. The scent of leaves and damp earth greeted them. The forest stretched in every direction, the trees rising high, their branches moving gently in the wind. Ayla held up the crystal. It glowed faintly, its light steady. "It is stronger here," she said. "That means we are on the right path," Rian replied. "We will move on foot from here. Ships are easy to notice. If we walk, we can search quietly." They began moving along a narrow trail that led deeper into the trees. Birds called from above, and the crunch of leaves sounded under their boots. The deeper they went, the more the forest surrounded them, cutting off the view of the sky. "Does it feel familiar to you?" Rian asked. Ayla shook her head. "No, but it feels like she could be near." They walked for hours, following the direction the crystal pointed. The light grew brighter each time they changed course to match its pull. They crossed a small stream, its water clear and cold, and passed a cluster of wildflowers that filled the air with a faint sweet smell. By the time the sun was lowering, the forest had grown thicker. Shadows stretched across the ground, and the air felt cooler. Rian noticed broken branches ahead and signs of something, or someone, moving through the area. Recently, Ayla noticed it too. "She might have been here," she whispered. "Or someone else," Rian said. "We have to keep our eyes open." They kept moving until they reached a small clearing. In the center stood a structure made of wood and metal, covered with leaves as if to hide it. Rian moved closer, studying it. It looked like a shelter, built with care but designed to blend into the forest. Ayla stepped forward, holding the crystal high. The glow grew stronger. She looked at Rian, her voice filled with quiet hope. "She is close." Rian scanned the area, noting faint footprints in the soft soil. They were not the shape of human boots. He glanced at the shelter again. If Lyra was near, they might be only moments away from finding her. But he also knew that if she had been hiding for this long, there might be a reason she could not simply step into the open. The air in the clearing was still. Only the sound of leaves moving in the wind broke the silence. Rian stood at the edge, studying the hidden shelter. Its walls were made of rough wood, patched together with thin metal sheets, branches, and leaves. We're tied across the roof to make it blend with the trees from a distance. It would look like part of the forest. Alia's crystal glowed steadily now, the light soft but unbroken. She held it close to her chest, her eyes fixed on the shelter. "Do you think she is inside?" she asked. Rian glanced at her, then back at the structure. "Maybe, or maybe she built it as a safe place and is somewhere nearby. We should check carefully. If your mother is hiding, she might not expect visitors, and we don't want to scare her." They stepped forward slowly. Rian moved first, keeping his steps light so the leaves under his boots made as little sound as possible. Alia followed close behind, her small frame quiet against the forest floor. As they neared the shelter, Rian noticed details: a small stack of firewood against one wall, a pot resting beside a stone fire pit, and a line of tools laid neatly on a wooden bench. Whoever lived here kept things in order. He reached the doorway. A curtain made of thick fabric hung where a door should be. He pulled it aside gently and looked inside. The room was simple. One bed made of wooden boards and blankets, a small table, and shelves holding jars of dried food. A folded map lay on the table, its surface covered with small marks. In the corner, a bag sat half open, with clothing neatly packed inside. Alia stepped in behind him. Her eyes scanned every detail. "This is hers," she whispered. She touched the fabric on the bed. "She made this kind of blanket for me once." Rian walked over to the table and studied the map. It showed the surrounding area of forest, river, and hills. Several spots had been circled in red. He guessed these might be places her mother had explored or used for safety. "This shelter is well built," Rian said. "She has been here for a while." "But where is she now?" Alia looked at the crystal again. The glow was still strong, but it did not point in one clear direction. "It is telling me she is near," she said. "But I think she is moving." Rian considered this. If her mother was out in the forest, she could be gathering food, checking traps, or scouting the area. "We should wait," he said. "If she comes back, we can meet her. But we must be ready in case it is someone else." They decided to stay inside the shelter, where they could watch the clearing without being seen. Rian moved a small chair to the side of the window opening, giving him a view of the path leading into the trees. Alia sat on the bed, holding her crystal tightly. Minutes passed, then an hour. The sun sank lower, sending long beams of light between the trees. The forest began to change with the evening. The bird calls softened, and the cool air carried the sound of insects. Rian's eyes caught movement in the distance. A shadow shifted between the trees. He leaned forward, watching closely. "Someone is coming," he whispered. Alia rose quietly and came to stand beside him. Through the leaves, a figure appeared. At first, the fading light made it hard to see clearly, but as the figure moved closer, Rian could make out the shape: tall, slender, wearing clothing that looked like it had been made from both human and alien materials. The figure carried a bundle of branches under one arm. The walk was careful, almost silent, as if each step was chosen to avoid making noise. Alia's breath caught. "That is her walk," she whispered. "It must be her." Rian stayed still, watching. The figure stepped into the clearing, then paused. The head turned slightly, scanning the area. Even from here, Rian could see the faint silver tone of the skin, like Alia's. Alia started toward the door, but Rian placed a hand on her shoulder. "Wait until she is closer," he said. The figure walked toward the shelter. The bundle of branches was placed by the firewood stack. Then the curtain at the doorway moved as the figure stepped inside. The moment the woman's eyes met Alia's, the bundle of branches she had just set down slipped from her hands. "Alia," she breathed. Alia ran forward and wrapped her arms around her mother. Rian stood back, giving them space. He could see the relief in the woman's face, the way her hands trembled slightly as she held her daughter. After a long moment, Alia stepped back and turned to Rian. "This is my mother, Lyra." Lyra's eyes moved to him. "You brought her to me," she said softly. "Thank you." Rian nodded. "She found me on Vetra Prime and asked for help. She said you were trapped here." Lyra sighed. Not trapped, exactly. But leaving has been dangerous. There are people nearby who became suspicious of me. I had to stay hidden until I could leave safely. I did not want Alia to come here. It is not safe for her. She would not give up, Ryun said. Lyra looked at her daughter with a mixture of pride and concern. I see that. They sat together at the table as the last light faded from the sky. Lyra lit a small lantern, its glow filling the shelter with soft light. She told Ryun how she had been living in the forest for weeks, avoiding nearby towns. When she sensed she was being watched, she had gathered supplies, but she had not found a safe way to signal her people for pickup. Now that you are here, she said to Ryun, we may have a chance, but we must leave quickly. If they discover my location, it will be harder to get away. Ryun agreed. We can take you to my ship. It is hidden not far from here. Alia smiled for the first time that day. We can go home. Lyra's hand rested on her daughter's shoulder. Yes, but we must be careful. Tonight, we rest. Tomorrow at dawn, we move. Outside, the forest grew darker, the sounds of night creatures filling the air. Inside, the three of them shared quiet words, the comfort of being together again easing the worry that had carried them for so long. But Ryun could not help thinking about Lyra's warning. If someone had been watching her, they might already know she had returned to the shelter, and if that was true, they would not have much time before trouble came. The forest was quiet when dawn came. Mist drifted between the trees, and the ground was damp with morning dew. Ryun woke early and stepped outside the shelter to check the surroundings. His boots sank slightly into the soft earth as he moved silently around the clearing. Nothing seemed disturbed. The trail leading toward the deeper woods looked untouched, and no new footprints marked the ground near the firewood pile. Still, he felt uneasy. The stillness seemed perfect, as if the forest was holding its breath. Inside, Lyra was already awake, packing the last of her supplies. Alia helped by folding blankets and placing them into a small bag. The crystal lay on the table, its glow faint now that they were close to its source. We should go before the sun is fully up, Lyra said. The light will make us easier to see. Ryun agreed. My ship is less than an hour's walk from here, but I want to check something first. He led them to the far side of the clearing where the trees grew denser. There, half hidden behind thick bushes, he found a narrow trail. It looked older than the main path. The ground was uneven, covered in fallen leaves. Yet there were signs of recent movement. A branch bent where someone had pushed past. A footprint half formed in the soft soil. Someone has been here, Ryun said quietly. It is not fresh enough to be from last night, but it is not more than a day old. Lyra frowned. It could be hunters from the town. They sometimes wander far into the forest. Or it could be someone who noticed your shelter, Ryun replied. They returned to the clearing quickly, not wanting to lose more time. Lyra shouldered her bag. Alia carried the crystal, and Ryun kept watch as they set off along the path toward the ship. The forest was different in the early morning. Shafts of sunlight pierced through the leaves, casting golden patterns on the ground. Birds called from the treetops, and small animals rustled in the undergrowth. It might have been peaceful if not for the tension running through each step they took. Halfway to the ship, they came across something unexpected. In a shallow dip between two ridges of earth, hidden beneath branches, was a small camp. The fire pit in the center was cold, but the ashes were fresh. Around it lay a few items, a tin cup, a length of rope, and a folded tarp. This is not mine, Lyra said quickly. Ryun crouched beside the fire pit. It looks like someone has been staying here. Maybe watching the forest. Alia stood close to her mother. Do you think they saw us yesterday? Ryun looked around. The camp was positioned in a way that offered a view of the path leading to the shelter. From here, someone could easily see if anyone came or went. It is possible, he said. And if they saw us, they may have gone to tell others. Lyra's voice was firm. Then we must leave now. They moved faster after that, taking a less direct route to the ship in case someone was following. Ryun led them through a series of narrow animal trails, using the cover of ferns and thick roots to hide their movement. The ground was uneven, and in some places, they had to step. over fallen logs or climbed small slopes. Finally, the trees began to thin, and a patch of open sky appeared ahead. Rian slowed and motioned for them to stop. "The clearing is just ahead," he said. "Wait here. I will check first." He crept forward until he could see the ship. It was exactly where they had left it, sitting in the grass with the morning light glinting off its wings. No one was in sight. He turned and waved for them to follow. They reached the ship quickly. As the ramp lowered, Rian felt the weight of the forest lift from his shoulders. Once inside, they would be safer. Alia stepped aboard first, followed by Lyra. Rian stayed outside for a moment longer, scanning the tree line. That was when he saw it. A glint of light, as if the sun had struck metal deep in the shadows dotted, vanished quickly, but he knew what it meant. Someone was there, watching. He went inside and closed the ramp. "We are not alone," he said as he moved to the pilot's seat. "Hold on." The ship lifted smoothly from the ground. Through the front glass, Rian saw movement in the trees, figures stepping into the clearing, shielding their eyes from the glare of the engines. They were too far to see clearly, but their presence confirmed his fears. Once the ship was above the treetops, Rian turned toward the higher atmosphere. Lyra sat beside him, her face calm but alert. Alia held the crystal tightly, as if afraid it might slip away. "Do you think they followed you here because you are not human?" Rian asked. "It is possible," Lyra said. "Or they may have noticed my camp and become curious. But I have stayed hidden for many days. They must have been looking for some time." "Then leaving was the right choice," Rian said. They flew low over the forest for a short time, heading toward a valley far from the town. Rian wanted to put as much distance as possible between them and the people, who might be chasing them eventually. He guided the ship to a safe altitude where it would not be easily seen from the ground. Only then did he ease the engines to a steady pace. Lyra leaned back in her seat. "I do not know who they are or what they want, but if they have been watching me, they may not stop now that I am gone." Rian glanced at her. "Then we have to be ready if they try to follow. We must lose them before we leave this planet." Alia looked between them. "We can still go home." "Right, yes," Rian said firmly. "But first we must make sure no one is following us." The ship moved quietly through the morning sky, leaving the forest and its hidden camp far behind. Yet Rian knew the people who had been watching were not finished. Something told him this was only the first step in a much bigger challenge. The morning sky outside the ship slowly turned from gold to pale blue as Rian kept a steady course toward the far mountains. His hands rested lightly on the controls, but his mind stayed sharp. The image of the watchers in the forest still lingered. In his thoughts, whoever they were, they had moved too quickly, too quietly. That meant they were skilled, maybe even trained. Lyra sat beside him, studying the faint glow of the crystal in Alia's hands. "It is stronger," she said softly. Rian glanced at it. "Does that mean we are close to where it came from?" "Yes," Lyra replied. "It calls to the place where it was born." "That place is near the mountains ahead." Alia leaned forward in her seat. "What's there?" Lyra's eyes grew distant. "A cave. Long ago, my people came to this planet to hide from a great danger. We built nothing, left nothing, only the crystal chambers deep inside the cave. My mother was there when I was taken away. If the crystal still glows, then she may still be alive." The ship reached the foothills by midday. The mountains rose sharply, their peaks hidden under drifting clouds. Thick pine forests covered their lower slopes. But higher up, the rock was bare and dark. Rian slowed the ship and searched for a hidden place to land. He found a narrow ledge near a waterfall that spilled from the rocks above. The mist from the water glittered in the sunlight. From here, a path wound upward between the cliffs. "This is as close as we can get without being seen from the air," Rian said. They stepped out into the cool mountain air. The sound of the waterfall filled the space around them, and the scent of wet stone and pine was strong. Rian carried a small pack with food, water, and a light source. Lyra kept the crystal, and Alia stayed between them. The climb was not easy. The path was uneven, with loose stones that shifted under their feet in some places. They had to grip the rock to keep from slipping, But as they moved higher, the view widened. They could see the forest far below, a green sea stretching to the horizon. After an hour, they reached a plateau where the sound of the waterfall faded. Here, the air was colder, and a thin fog clung to the ground. Lyra pointed toward a dark shape in the cliffside, a narrow opening framed by jagged stone. "That is the entrance," she said. They approached carefully. The opening was just tall enough for Rion to walk upright, but the inside was pitch black. He switched on a small light, and its beam cut through the darkness, revealing walls that glittered faintly as if lined with tiny crystals. As they moved deeper, the air grew warmer. The glitter on the walls became brighter, reflecting the light in shifting colors. The tunnel widened into a chamber where the ground was smooth, and the ceiling arched high overhead. Alia's eyes were wide. "It's beautiful." Lyra nodded, but kept her gaze forward. "The crystal chamber is deeper inside. We must follow the echoes." Rion frowned. "Echoes?" Lyra explained. "The sound in these caves carries differently if you listen. The echoes will guide you to the heart." They walked on, listening. Every step they took made a faint sound that returned from the walls in strange patterns. Sometimes it seemed to come from behind them, sometimes from far ahead. Slowly, the echoes began to lead them toward a narrow side tunnel. The deeper they went, the brighter the walls became. The crystals seemed to grow larger here, glowing faintly even without Rion's light. Alia held out her hand, letting the glow reflect off her fingers. Finally, they reached a vast chamber filled with pillars of pure crystal. Light shimmered inside them as if something moved beneath the surface. In the center of the room was a low stone platform. And on that platform, lying motionless, was a figure. Lyra froze. "Mother!" She ran forward, and Rion followed more slowly, scanning the shadows. The woman on the platform was older than Lyra, with the same delicate features and dark hair. Her skin was pale, but her chest rose and fell with slow breaths. "She is alive," Lyra said, kneeling beside her. She touched her mother's hand, and the older woman stirred slightly. Alia came closer, her voice quiet. "Is she waking up?" "Not yet," Lyra replied. "She is in deep rest. The crystals keep her safe, but they also hold her in sleep. We will need time to bring her back." Rion kept watch, his eyes moving around the chamber. Something about the air felt heavier now, as if the cave itself was aware of their presence. Then he heard it, a faint sound, not from their footsteps, but from somewhere far behind. It was the soft scrape of stone, the kind made by someone moving in the dark. "We are not alone," Rion said sharply. Lyra looked up. "They followed us." "Maybe," Rion said. "Or maybe they already knew. This place." He turned off his light, letting the natural glow of the crystals take over. The chamber was still bright enough to see, but now the shadows along the walls seemed to shift. From the far side of the room, a shape emerged, tall, thin, and wrapped in a dark cloak. The figure stepped into the crystal light, and Rion saw a mask hiding its face. Lyra stood protectively in front of her mother and Alia. "Who are you?" The figure's voice was calm but cold. "The one who has been waiting. The one who guards what is not yours." Rion stepped forward. "We are here for her mother. Nothing else." The figure tilted its head. "Nothing is taken from this chamber without the will of the guardians. If you wish to leave with her, you must face the trial." Lyra's grip on the crystal tightened. "What trial?" The figure pointed toward a dark tunnel beyond the chamber. "Beyond that path lies the heart crystal. Touch it, and it will decide if you are worthy. Fail, and none of you will leave this place." Rion looked at Lyra. Her jaw was set, and her eyes held no fear. "Then we will face it," she said. The guardian stepped aside, motioning toward the tunnel. The air there seemed warmer, pulsing with faint light. Rion knew this was no ordinary test, and whatever lay ahead, they would have to face it together. The tunnel beyond the chamber pulsed with light that seemed to come from within the stone itself. Rion, Lyra, and Alia moved carefully, their steps echoing softly against the crystal walls. The glow from the walls lit their path, but the deeper they went, the heavier the air felt, as if the cave itself was testing their courage. Alia held the crystal tightly, feeling warmth radiating from it. "It feels alive," she whispered. Lyra nodded. It is connected to the heart crystal. It will guide us if we stay calm and focused, but it will also sense fear or doubt. Rian glanced at them both. Then we need to trust each other. No matter what happens, stay together. They continued forward until the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. In the center stood a pillar of pure crystal, taller than any of them, radiating soft, steady light. Around it, the floor was smooth, and faint patterns glowed along the walls. The heart crystal seemed to hum in the air, its vibration faint but powerful. The cloaked guardian from before stood near the chamber's edge, silent. Its presence was calm, yet commanding. Lyra stepped forward, her hand outstretched toward the pillar. The glow responded, spreading along the chamber walls, illuminating every corner. Aelia followed, the small crystal in her hands connecting to the heart crystal as if recognizing its kin. Rian stayed close, watching for any danger. Remember, he said, this crystal can test your mind. Stay strong. Lyra touched the heart crystal. A warm sensation traveled through her body, and suddenly, the chamber seemed to expand. Images flashed in her mind, memories of her past, moments she had cherished with her daughter. In the long time she had spent hiding in the forest, the crystal pulsed with each memory, and the glow grew brighter. Aelia stepped forward and touched the smaller crystal in her hands. The light merged with the heart crystal, sending waves of energy through the chamber. She felt her mother's presence more strongly than ever, as if the crystal was drawing them together. Rian watched in awe. The chamber's walls reflected their forms, and he could feel the energy around them, steady but demanding. It was as if the crystal wanted them to prove their connection, their bond, and their intention. Suddenly, the glow flickered, and a shadow crossed the chamber. The cloaked guardian moved closer, its voice calm but firm. The heart crystal senses the worthiness of those who approach, only pure intentions, courage, and unity will allow passage. Lyra turned to Rian. We must focus. Nothing else matters. They all closed their eyes for a moment, letting the energy flow through them. Aelia thought of her mother, of the long journey, of the hope that had guided her. Lyra focused on her daughter, on the need to protect her, and the love that had never faded. Despite the long separation, Rian focused on keeping them safe, on ensuring they could all leave together. The crystal glowed brighter and brighter until the light filled the chamber completely. Aelia opened her eyes and saw her mother standing, fully awake now, smiling softly. The warmth of the crystal seemed to connect them all, confirming their bond. The cloaked guardian stepped aside. You have proven your unity and courage. The heart crystal accepts you. You may leave. Lyra embraced her daughter, relief and joy shining in her eyes. I thought I might never see you again, she said. Aelia held her mother tightly. I knew you were alive. I never gave up. Rian smiled quietly. Then let's get you both back to the ship. We still have a long journey ahead. They carefully left the chamber, the glow of the heart crystal fading behind them. The cave seemed calmer now, as if acknowledging their success. The tunnel led them back to the entrance at the waterfall, where the fresh mountain air welcomed them. The forest below was peaceful, the sunlight glinting off leaves and rocks. Rian guided the ship from the ledge carefully, lifting them into the sky. From above, the mountains stretched wide, the rivers and forests glowing in the morning sun. Lyra and Aelia sat together, watching the landscape pass below. I never realized how beautiful this world is, Lyra said. It is, Aelia replied. But I want to go home. Rian piloted the ship skillfully, navigating away from the forest to avoid anyone who might have been following the crystal. And Aelia's hands remained bright for a while, then slowly dimmed as if its task was complete. Hours passed as they traveled through the atmosphere and into the safety of orbit. Lyra looked at the stars, her expression calm now. We will need to plan carefully before we return to Vetra Prime. But for now, I am grateful just to be together again. Aelia leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. We made it, Rian nodded. Yes, you are safe. That is what matters. The journey back was quiet, but in a good way. The tension of the past days was slowly replaced with hope. Lyra explained how she had survived in the forest, how she had used the crystals to protect herself, and how proud she was of her daughter's bravery. Alia listened, fascinated by the stories and relieved that her mother was finally safe. Rian occasionally joined in, offering his own stories of space travel and past adventures. As the ship moved closer to Vetra Prime, the familiar lights of the station appeared in the distance. Lyra looked at them, a soft smile on her face. "We are almost home." Alia squeezed her mother's hand. "Home," she repeated, a word filled with relief and happiness. Rian guided the ship into the docking bay. The engine slowed, and the ramp lowered. The moment they stepped out, they were surrounded by the sights and sounds of their world, a place that had seemed distant and unreachable just days before. Lyra looked around, then down at her daughter. "We will rest now. Tomorrow, we can begin the next part of our journey together." Alia smiled, finally free from fear. "Together," she said. Rian watched them, feeling a quiet satisfaction. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and tests of courage. They had found strength in each other, and now they could move forward safely. The stars shone above Vetra Prime that night, but inside the station, the warmth of family and hope glowed brighter than any crystal. The journey had been long, the trials difficult, but in the end, the bond between mother and daughter had proven stronger than any obstacle. And Rian knew that as long as they had each other, they could face anything that came next.